Miracles. What are they? In this video, we're going to talk about what a miracle actually is compared to how the word or concept is typically used. I'm going to end with some philosophical considerations. Let's start with what a miracle is typically, colloquially, out in the world, ordinary usage. Common example, it's a miracle that my sister got married. Imagine that you have a sister and she's not very intellectual. She's not very talented. She doesn't have skills. She's not rich. She's not nice to look at. And she has no sense of humor. You might not expect her to get married. And when she does, you might exclaim that it's a miracle. But this is a mere common use of this word miracle, and it's not an actual use of the definition. So too with this other example. Getting an A was a miracle. Another common use case, but not the actual word miracle, or concept rather. Because if you did the work, then it was possible for you to get an A, and you did. It might go against your expectation. If your sister got married, you didn't expect that she would, but it just goes against your expectations. The correct use of that term, miracle, are the following. Jesus cured a disabled person with just one touch. Now, that's unexpected, and it's also the correct use of the word miracle. Sign of divine intervention. And I use this word divine very carefully. A miracle is not just the intervention of God the Lord because people prayed for it. People who believe in miracles don't necessarily believe in God. For example, Hinduism does not have the Abrahamic God in mind, but they do believe in something supernatural. A better word is something divine, heavenly, and not merely naturally. So the definition of miracle is best put like this. It's a sign of divine intervention, and it's an extraordinary, and I use this word carefully as well, extraordinary act or event. I'll just write event. And then let's break down this word because it means something very specific. By ordinary, we mean what you're used to. We mean the day-to-day actions that you are expecting. And this extra meaning something like beyond or not limited by. Extra meaning to go beyond, and ordinary meaning the day-to-day. You put those together and you get the concept extraordinary. It goes beyond the day-to-day. A miracle is a sign of divine intervention, and it is an extraordinary event or an extraordinary act. Let's think more about that. An example of a miracle is not your sister who has no talents getting married. An example of a miracle is something like a person who was beaten beyond recognition, dead, rises up and walks around, especially 3 days later. That is an example of a miracle because that is something that goes beyond the mundane, ordinary, day-to-day, regular stuff that happens. A miracle is something that goes against what is explainable by typical natural physical science. A miracle is something that is not explainable by science. There are laws in science, and they explain the natural world. Something that is a miracle is something that goes beyond the typical stuff that happens in our natural scientific world, which is why it's a sign of divine or supernatural intervention. If you want a definition of a miracle, I would say that it is absolutely some kind of thing that brings together these three ideas. Now let's get a little bit more philosophical, thinking about how miracles are things that are not explainable by science. In the real world, there's different kinds of laws or regulations. There's, for example, the moral law, things like do not lie. There is man's political law, things like do not keep driving at a stop sign without stopping. And then there's physics, the laws of physics like gravity. And some of these laws you can break, and some of these laws you cannot break. You can break that law, you can break that law, but what about the laws of physics? What about stuff like gravity? There's this law in science that says that particles will attract other particles based on some formula that has to do with like the velocity or the weight and distance or something. I'm not a physicist. But anyway, you cannot break the law of gravity. If you're on Earth, nothing is bigger or heavier than the Earth itself. So if you were to take any object and you were to drop it, it would definitely fall down because it's moving towards the center of the Earth, which is the largest gravitational pull for anything on Earth or very near Earth. Gravity is a law that you cannot not listen to, unlike laws of the land or moral laws. And this connects us to another philosophical view about miracles. A Christian, Maurice Wiles, argues that we should not believe in miracles because to believe in miracles, you're thinking that by praying, God will listen on an individual basis and interject or intervene in the natural world, going against the laws that he set in motion. And God didn't make any mistakes. So God's not going to intervene to change the way things are going. So miracles, he says, is not a thing you should believe in. On the other hand, someone who does not believe in Christianity, in fact, doesn't believe in any organized religion, David Hume, also argues that you should not believe in miracles. There are billions of people on Earth who do believe in miracles, who believe that there are things that happen that go beyond the day-to-day that are not explainable by any science because it is a sign of divine intervention. And that's what a miracle is.